What's up? What's up? What's up? Another Friday. Yeah, I know it's Friday night on the East Coast, but another Friday means another opportunity to get together and record the Ball Hog Sports Talk. You know we in the building. You know how we do it. It's where sports, business, and entertainment collide. I got one of the crew members in the building, and coming to you, as you can tell, I'm in the dark. He's in the light. Coming to you from a remote location. I don't know if we can disclose where. We just say from a remote location. It's the Big Flow Show in the building. Go ahead and say hello before we send it to the intro. What's up, Big Flow Show?
Man, what's good, you? What's good, America? Happy New Year. I
Yeah.
just, I don't know if we done a New Year show yet. I think we missed one. Yes, we did. But you know what? Happy New Year again, just because that's what we're doing.
Happy
So
New
I'm
Year
out
again.
here. I'm out here in a very remote location, somewhere east of California and west of Chicago. There's a lot of deserts here and a lot of flashing lights. So if you hear something crazy, know that whatever happens here stays here. That's all
There
I'm
it
saying.
is, baby. And hopefully a lot of wins out there. Win, win, win. All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Go ahead and make sure you win out there, man. So you can come share with the crew. We have today's episode is going by the title of Changing Tides. We know that there is a saying that few of you probably know. It was coined by none other than JFK, and he said that a rising tide lifts all boats. It has been used ad nauseum, that particular phrase. A rising tide lifts all boats. It's mainly used by politicians and economists to talk about sort of this trickle down economy and how if an economy improves, every participant in the economy somehow will benefit from that. But in today's episode, we're going to use the idea of tides differently. We know that this has been an earthquake level week in terms of the seismic shock that we have had with coaching changes. The one that stands out the most to me is the Alabama Tide and Nick Saban. So today's episode is going to both celebrate and honor some of the changing tides, but also get into some of the nitty gritty of the week. With no further ado, boys and girls, cats and dogs, frogs, and anybody and everybody else, we want to hear what you think is the most impactful change in coaching. So stay tuned. We're going to get into some of those changes. We know Pete Carroll will no longer be with the Seattle Seahawks. We know that Nick Saban will no longer be with the Alabama Crimson Tide. We know that Bill Belichick will no longer be with the New England Patriots. And with that, with all of the change, with all of the dust up, with all of those wins that are going to now be moving on, we have changing tides. Sports Business and Entertainment is the Ball Hog Sports Talk where a few businessmen get together to discuss sports. We discuss sports in a very, very entertaining fashion. We are the crew, at least two of the crew, and we are in the building. Make sure that you fasten the seatbelt, pour you something nice. We are in the evening hours, and in Vegas, it don't matter. I wasn't supposed to say a place. In certain places that are east of California and west of Chicago, that whatever happens there stays there. It doesn't matter what time it is. Pour you a drink. It's the Ball Hog Sports Talk coming to you. It's going to be rough, rugged, and raw. Let's go.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Cause this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B Brown, ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're gonna give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go.
Once again, it's on. Once again, it's on. Right here on a Friday in front of this microphone. That's about the best I got. Bars. We got changing tides, bro. I mean, no way, no how in the entire ecosystem of sports would you think that we have these three earth-shattering revelations of coaching changes within essentially a 48-hour period.
Was it that long? I mean, I feel like You're right, because starting with Pete Carroll probably about 48 hours. I, I feel bad for Pete Carroll. I don't think anybody really wants fanfare when they retire from a coaching position. But man, he got about 15 minutes.
They ethered my man's announcement, right? Because
He's out there, he's crying, whatever. Like, oh, hey, cut to Nick Saban. Oh, hey, cut to Bill Belichick. Nobody's thinking about poor Pete Carroll. Uh, but this is crazy. It's interesting, and we're at a pace now, I think, as sports fans where you just never know anymore. Your favorite player may not be on the team anymore. The coach, he might be gone Tuesday. You never know what the loyalty is. Coaches get together, do team meetings, and let everybody know that they're not going anywhere. And by the time they walk out of the meeting, they're signing a contract to go somewhere. And it's just, what are you to do at this point, man? I just think there's nothing genuine.
I think you acknowledge that nothing is certain. I think you acknowledge that the flexibility that coaches have exercised throughout history, the players have that same flexibility now. So let's get into the first one, because what I want to do first, and we're going to get in and get out. It's a Friday night. I know people are going to go out and go to the club. You're in a place where there's a lot of entertaining activity. So we're not going to be here long, but we're going to be here very effectively. What I want to do is ask the audience. First, every week, we ask you humbly, please like, comment, share, tag a friend, tag a phone, tag anybody that you know. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and the podcast. Second, we're going to ask our audience to engage. Because when you hear those three coaches announced within a 48-hour period, and you're right, it's probably more like a 36-hour period, that they will no longer be with their respective organizations. Pete Carroll, Seattle Seahawks, no longer. One Super Bowl in there, probably should have had 2 Super Bowls. But you then look back to, he is one of 3 coaches that have ever walked this planet that has won both a national championship at the collegiate level and a Super Bowl. Then you look at Nick Saban. And you look at Bill Belichick. And those 3 men arguably are on first ballot Mount Rushmore of coaches. I know Pete Carroll was ethered when the other gentlemen who have, at least in the public eye, a more reputable name when it comes to coaching, but he's one of 3 humans that have ever done that. Won a national championship and won a Super Bowl. If you look at his record, undeniably, he is going to be in a consideration as first ballot Mount Rushmore of coaches. And then you look at the other 2 gentlemen, it's just undeniable, right? You got Bill Belichick, got 6 Super Bowls, 6 Super Bowls, a record of 6 and 3, 6 Super Bowl championships. He's been in a Super Bowl 9 times. 6 and 3 in the Super Bowl. He got 6 of them things. And then you go to my guy who I have hated on because the way he whooped up on Notre Dame, who I have questioned because pre-NIL, it just didn't make sense how he was able to not only get but also retain so many great recruits for so long, who I tried to undermine his accomplishments because I'm a hater. None other than Nick Saban. Nick Saban got 7 of them things, and you look at his record, I think he's won, not won. Let's go to the loss column. I think he's only lost 29 games ever as a collegiate coach. And he's been there since Moses was walking around chilling. He seemed to be there for, I think, 24, 25 years or something like that, upwards of 20 years after he left the Miami Dolphins. And you look at his record, and you're in awe. I want to ask those who are in the live audience, of the 3, who had the most impact? Not the most wins. Who had the most impact? Because you look at their coaching tree, right? I didn't realize Pete Carroll was a part of the Lou Holtz coaching tree. Lou Holtz is one of the first people that gave Pete Carroll his job. If you look at Bill Belichick and Nick Saban's coaching tree, you basically have every successful coach on every level. And so I asked the audience, and then I'm going to throw it to you, who had the most impact? I want you guys to chime in, please, because I want to hear. Now, not as a fan, because as a fan, I got to be honest, I didn't like any of the 3. I didn't like Pete Carroll because he was at USC and broke our heart in 2006.
Bush push?
2006 season with the Bush push. I didn't like Nick Saban because he put the pause on us in 2012 down in Miami. Messed up my whole party scene. We was vibing into that game. Until the kickoff, we had the time of our lives, Irish fan. And it's something about Bill Belichick and the whole asterisk of him cheating, and I never liked the Patriots. So so let's separate our feelings and try to be objective when we answer that question: who had the most impact? And then I throw it to you. Same question. Of the three, who had the most impact? And some of it can be gleaned from the announcements and the reaction from the fan base and what it does for the elite, either collegiate program or NFL franchise going forward. But that's not a telltale. When you think of those three gentlemen, first ballot, Mount Rushmore of coaching inductees, who had the most impact of the three?
I mean, I think the first thing you do is just eliminate Pete Carroll, right? He only has a mere 2 championships. So
He's one of 3. Look, he did what Nick Saban couldn't do. Nick Saban couldn't win a Super Bowl at Miami. In fact, he left them in the middle of the night. Pete Carroll did what even Nick Saban couldn't do. He did what Lou Holtz couldn't do. Lou Holtz couldn't win with the Jets. Pete Carroll is one of 3 people that have ever been able to do what he did, which is win at both the NFL level and at the collegiate level.
Understood, but just got 2 championships. So I got to put him back at the end and put him on the sideline.
Fair.
And just say whatever.
Only 2.
I'm torn because when you look at, what is it harder? Is it harder to go secure talent and bring them into your university, guys that you can't just draft and
are we talking pre or post NIL? Because even that question, I gotta qualify the questions.
Honestly, I have some pretty strong opinions about that situation, his retirement, that I'll get into after I answer this question. But it's hard to say. I mean, the NFL is 32 teams. Everyone gets to draft. They all have the same salary cap. And Bill Belichick got to find a way to dominate for so many years. It's hard for me to look at that and discount that, because in college football, there's 137, I think, D1, 135 D1 teams.
I'll take your word for it. I don't know the exact number.
Something that they and it's not like you can just go out and just draft a quarterback. You can't just go do this, go do that, whatever. I do have a problem with Bill Belichick's retirement, and I'll just go into that now.
Please do. Well, you want the man to die on the sideline? What you mean you got a problem with his retirement?
It smells like he quit to me.
Oh.
It smells like he said, I can't dominate anymore. It smelled front runnerish. Here's the thing. Nick Saban has been, and if I said that wrong, Nick Saban's retirement is the one that I'm questioning if I said Bill Belichick.
Nick Saban is the one. Okay. I thought you did say Bill Belichick.
I said Bill Belichick. Nick Saban.
Right.
I think Bill Belichick just left. I think he got fired, and he's about to go get something else. He's going to hopefully show up at the Bears, teach us something how to do it. But Nick Saban's retirement it reeks of front running and quitting to me. He's been paying guys. I can't prove it on the record, but from very good sources, I know he's been paying guys for years. All of a sudden now,
hold on. If it happened in Vegas, you're supposed to stay in Vegas. You ain't supposed to be diming nobody out, man.
He didn't pay him in Vegas. He didn't pay him in Vegas. He paid him in Tuscaloosa. So I think at the end of the day, he's been having an unfair advantage to be able to secure all this talent. Now that other people can get talent too, and it's a little challenging for him, where he just missed the playoffs last year. This year he made the playoffs but got beat. Now he just quits and goes home. I don't like it. I feel like a true champion is going to say, "Listen, this thing has changed. I got to give this thing one more run, see if I can't win with these." He still has goons. He still has monsters on his team. And I don't feel like he's got a talent. He's not lacking anything. Everything that's at everyone else's disposal is at his disposal. He can get people into school. He can pay guys. He still has a big name. He still has top recruits left and right. You just lost the game, and now you're like, I want to retire. Earlier this year, they made rumors of him retiring, and he seemed to blow those all the way off. Now, granted, people do that when they're in the middle of their season, but I just something about his retirement just
Well,
just
so he
doesn't
was
sit well.
asked directly. What's up, my man? Glass Bar asked, "Damn, is this the nightcap edition?" Yeah, man, we gotta switch it up. We trying to grow, man. That doggone Cat Williams and Shannon Sharp interview taught us that there's opportunity here, baby. We gotta make it happen. So we're gonna test a few different time slots out. So we just testing it. We testing. Microphone check 1 2 testing. Your point that he left when he sort of experienced a little adversity. I ain't buying that, man, because I just think that when it comes to Nick Saban, when it comes to where he is, he could coach for another 10 years and be fine. He's in his 70s. His response, when asked directly, did NIL and the transfer portal, interviewer asked, have anything to do with your retirement? He said, frankly, now, granted, I'm sure he's got a media trainer. I'm sure he understands how his statements can be misconstrued. So he's got to be very strategic about how he answered that question. But his answer was no. And he then went on to say that he felt like the timing and where Alabama was, he felt like this was just the time. He's in his 70s. And it was more of a timing, making sure that he left, being considerate of the players that are currently there, the athletic program, specifically where the football program stands now, and where things are trending. You not buying it seems like.
It sits well. You know, I respect the hell out of Nick Saban. I think he's a GOAT. I'm going to put that on there, and I think that he's done an amazing job with this program, and staying on top is so difficult. What he has achieved is more difficult than people can even imagine. I just think that it's really weird that he's making complaints about NIL when it's pretty common known, dry snitching or not, Mr. Bibb, or is it Glass Bart?
Somebody called you a dry snitch?
He called me a dry snitch. But dry snitching or not, I mean, it is what it is. The man is walking away right now, and I feel like Nick Saban is facing a challenge that I think he can overcome. Well, and he was close enough to get to the playoffs and have a good game for the Final Four. I would have liked to see him, and again, he doesn't have to care what I think, but I would have liked to see him under these new challenges, this new format, be successful, and then go out. Granted, he's 72 years old. I get it. But it seems like he quit because he felt like he couldn't compete, and that sounds terrible to me.
But the way when you say it that way, and here's where I'll play devil's advocate. When you talked about Alabama having the advantage of whatever their recruiting tactics led them to benefit from, allegations or not. When you describe it that way, then I immediately think that Bill Belichick's accomplishments are even more admirable, because you don't have the benefit of alleged boosters. You don't have the benefit of alleged under.
Who doesn't?
Bill Belichick doesn't have that. They have boosters. Yeah, so I'm saying when I compare the two, as you're describing it, and I hadn't thought of it this way, I posed the question in real time because I wanted my wheels to start turning and think of who had the most impact too. But as you describe what Nick Saban did and how he did it, fair or unfair, taking the idea of NIL, pre-NIL, and implementing it in a way that gave him the advantage. He was always one of the number one recruiting classes. He always had some of the best talent on his coaching staff. He always had 4- and 5-star recruits that were going to at least take the Alabama trip for nothing else, but it became NFLU. If you play there, the man never recruited a class that did not win a national championship. Let me repeat that again for those in the back. Every class that he ever recruited came to Alabama, and within that class, now maybe one person didn't stay or left early, but within a class, a 4-year range, they never went 4 years without winning a national championship. That's impressive. right? But what you're telling me is it's impressive with a sort of a wink wink. He was able to do it because he had the head start on at least the foundational principles of what it meant to have name, image, and likeness opportunities afforded to you by way of the boosters. That's what you're saying. Doesn't that make Bill Belichick's accomplishments significantly more impressive? Because he had to deal with free agency. He had to deal with the draft. He had to deal with the fact that there's only 32 teams that are splitting up this talent, and he does not get to handpick who he brings in. He had to deal with, we got to see a guy like so many different names, but a Troy Brown. You go through the names of David Patton, David, I'm tripping, from Notre Dame.
Givens or something?
David Givens. You go through the list of players that were considered marginal, that he was a Wes Welker. After Wes Welker was, what's the other little slot white guy that was there? Who played quarterback. He had a number of them. So doesn't it make it more impressive that he was able to win 6 Super Bowls without the benefit of having the advantage of what you would consider NIL, pre-NIL, boosters, fair or not? He didn't have the same things, the same advantages when it came to developing talent, or at least having access to talent that Nick Saban did. And then I'll go one further to play devil's advocate, that Pete Carroll was able to win on both levels. So he was able to balance having the talent of USC and recruiting, and what someone might argue and what some have alleged, and which is why Reggie Bush does not have his Heisman Trophy in his home. Some of those advantages by way of recruiting, and he was able to do it in the NFL in Seattle. Should have had 2, didn't have 2. I think that's his biggest knock is the, let's call it the beast mode decision, and not winning that second Super Bowl. But I'm pushing back on you in terms of why is it Nick Saban is most impressive when Nick Saban had the benefit of the boosters?
Most impactful. I don't know. That's the hard part, because
most impactful, not most impressive. Most impactful. You're right.
And I mentioned that when I talked about Belichick, is that he's got to do it with the salary cap that everybody else has. Tom Brady had so much to do with obviously what's going on, because he didn't make max money. He always left money on the table for everybody else to go get the pieces. But I will say this about Belichick: he gets guys to come in the system. Now, granted, he's more of a defensive guy, but they get guys to come into the system, ball out, and go get paid millions somewhere else and disappear off the face of the earth. So he gets more out of his guys than anybody else gets out of his guys. So it's interesting. I think they're both GOATs. I think Nick Saban is the best college coach ever, and I think Belichick's the best NFL coach ever. And I think that Pete Carroll's in the conversation as a really good coach, but with one championship at both, that's cool. But it's also not. It's not 6. It's not 7.
I'm going to ask the audience one more time for those of you who are tuning in live. First, we appreciate you. Second, answer the question. Who is most impactful when you think of those 3 coaches? Because while we write off the Pete Carroll being in the discussion, I don't think you can write off Pete Carroll being first ballot Mount Rushmore of coaches.
Rushmore?
Not winning both at both levels. There's only 3 people in the world who have done it.
Jimmy Johnson just got his flowers this year.
Just got his flowers. And that's because Jerry Jones and him, I don't know what they had going on.
Jerry's a jerk. But I'm not gonna put Pete Carroll on Mount Rushmore. I can't do that for him.
Who goes on there then? And I know it's tough because we're saying Mount Rushmore of all coaching. Normally, at football coaching, what you would do is you would parse out college and NFL. What Pete Carroll's forcing us to do in this conversation is think of it more globally and think of just coaching and think of impact. So
he's about Rushmore of people that coach at both levels. Absolutely. But I don't know. I like Pete Carroll. I think he's a good dude. I'm not giving him that kind of status and shit.
You ain't giving him that kind of status. All right. You guys tune in. Chime in. Let me know who you think is the most impressive. Let's go through quickly because we do want to give their flowers. So let's make sure we give Bill Belichick his flowers first.
Yeah.
Most successful coach in Patriots history, by far. He quadruples the next person. So he will probably always be the most successful coach. I don't want to say always, but with the turnover in coaching now, I don't see anybody staying there 24 years.
No.
Not everyone is patient. Most franchises aren't. 266 wins in franchise history. He's 30-12 in the playoffs. 6-3 in the Super Bowl, and then he got 2 more as an assistant. But as a head coach, he was 6-3. Record post Tom Brady, because you did it. Oh, here we go. Every time we start talking about the Patriots, somebody want to bring up. Every time we start talking about the Patriots led by Bill Belichick, somebody want to bring up Tom Brady. You did it. You undermined the man's success by saying it was more attributable to Tom Brady.
What happens with Phil Jackson? No one brings up Michael Jordan or Scott or Kobe or Shaq? That never comes up? That's good.
But look, those are 2 different franchises. Those are, I would argue, 3 different leaders of the team in respective championships. And so there's at least some flexibility there. Yeah. There is a target on Tom Brady's head anytime that you have a Bill Belichick legacy conversation and people want to attribute it solely to Tom Brady. So let's look at his record post Tom Brady. And I don't think it was great, but he did make it to the playoffs post Tom Brady. Since Tom Brady left, he was 3rd in the AFC East, 2nd in the AFC East in 2021. That's when they lost to the Buffalo Bills in the first round wild card game. And then last year he was 3rd in the AFC East, and this year, for the first time since 1995. Wow. Never. This is the first time ever he's been last in the AFC East. He got there in 2000. That's not true. He was 5th before the realignment, AFC East in 2000. So in the last 23 years, this is the first time he's ever been 4th in the AFC East. Does that put a black eye on what is the legacy of Bill Belichick? His post-Brady years.
His post-Brady years are not. I mean, when Brady won a championship without him, and he hasn't come close with it, without him, I think that hurts you. It's kind of the Shaq and Kobe argument when they broke up, but then they both won championships. So it's kind of like, all right, whatever. I didn't need you. You didn't need me. But it's tough when you go out there because what's really weird is in the past when Brady has been gone with the knee injuries, whatever, they've still played fantastic. Deflate Gate when he missed, they still won a lot of games. Yeah. So it's not just Brady.
Belichick got a bunch of backup quarterbacks paid. Everybody said it was system. Yeah. If we take the last 3 years and eliminate it and try to go back to the conversation, it was just as much debate about whether or not Tom Brady should be the GOAT or someone that benefited from the system that Bill Belichick created, someone that benefited from the culture that Bill Belichick created. Because we had so many backup quarterbacks that, when put into the game, had success. And so we all suffer from recency bias. And those last 3 years are going to, unfortunately, be the thing
go down this trash.
Most recent that we're going to talk about most now. But let's try to take a step back and ignore recency bias and look at just what he was able to accomplish with Tom Brady as a 6th-round draft pick, as a backup that only got his opportunity because of an injury, and with so many backup quarterbacks. I don't know, man. I dislike Bill Belichick to the core. I think he's just a rotten human being in terms of wanting to be around him.
How do you feel about him?
Rotten. He's just one of them dudes. But he's a winner. I respect it. So I'll give you last word on it, man. I'm going to try to get some of these up. I know I asked people to chime in, and they are. So I'm going to post some of these. I'll give you last word on it before we move to the man, the myth, the legend, Nick Saban. And then we'll just have at least a 30-second round robin on Pete Carroll. But I'll give you last word on Bill Belichick, his legacy, how Tom Brady, the impact there too. And then we'll move on. What say you?
The GOAT. He goes down as the greatest. Michael Jordan never gets criticized for his lack of success with the uh, Washington Wizards, and I don't think you should go him at Belichick and say, all right, well, he's bad at the end. He just played for a long time. I think they could have made changes, made him more successful if they wanted to. He didn't need to be a GM. I think he should have left that duties up. I think he was willing to leave the duties up, but it was already too late. I don't know that we've seen the last of Bill Belichick.
The hubris of saying that he can win with Matt Jones, I thought, was the beginning of the end, and that cemented his downfall. I don't think we've seen the last of him either. I like Glass Bart's Mount Rushmore: Bill Walsh, Jimmy Johnson, Bill Belichick, and Chuck Noll. I gotta be honest, and that's I'm assuming that is probably that's NFL, not NFL and college, but that's his Mount Rushmore. I like that. Scott Bibb says no Don Shula. It's hard to say, man. It's hard to say. Before we get into Nick Saban, I do want to say, because I do see Paul McDonald, what's up, Paul, has pointed out that Jared Mayo is not going to take the reins. If Bill Belichick stayed for 24 years, I'm hoping Jared Mayo, a young, black, former player, is now going to be the head coach of the New England Patriots. I struggle with seeing where he is taking the reins because the Patriots stink right now. Stink. They don't have a lot at any place. So I hope they
Their defense is doing all right, though, right? They just can't score.
They played okay. Yeah, I mean, they were the brightest spot on a very dull lit team. But yeah, they can't score, and they still have the biggest question mark at who's going to lead their team. That's the challenge of having what was once a Tom Brady led team, is that you always ask that question. I knew Scott Bibb was going to say Tom Landry. The only thing Tom Landry had was hats. Stop playing around, man. He don't get a Mount Rushmore. We talking about the best of the best of the best of the best. The best. Let's hop into Bill Belichick. Sorry, but not Bill Belichick. I'm moving on to Nick Saban. Nick Saban comes up short in the semifinals. You say that he took the easy way out and quit. There have been rumors that he quit because the game has changed. It has moved beyond him. The evolution of NIL, the evolution of the transfer portal has created a little bit of parity in college football. And the person who, whether, according to you, did so illegally or not, used recruiting to have an advantage. The person that used the inability to transfer really in his favor. And this concept that if you stay patient, ultimately you win over a spot and then play, you're going to make it to the NFL. That same person now is getting out. You said he tapped out. He gave you one of these?
I can't do it. Pulled his own collar. I think he pulled his collar and he just didn't want to do it anymore. And I mean, he's honest about it. I give him props for that. But I just think that it's...
Well, he's dishonest about it. He's been dishonest about it because his answer was no. What's up, my man Kwame Raoul in the building, man? And Saban was impressive. But he says in this comment, which I really appreciate chiming in, running from NIL's valid point, given how often he complained about recruiting of other coaches and the necessity at this point to not only recruit the 5-star incoming class, but then re-recruit each member of the 5-star laden recruiting class. And now he gets out of there when it seems as though we have reached a sort of a climax in terms of just how much leverage the players have.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think that does anything for his legacy in terms of undermining his overall impact and efficacy at the collegiate level. But I'm willing to listen. Change my mind on that.
I don't believe his legacy is gone. He's still the GOAT of college football. I think he's still one of the GOATs of all coaches and what he's been able to accomplish. I just don't like the way he's leaving. I feel like I can't speak highly on it. I just think he's he's leaving and he's trying to figure out, oh, well, I can't compete. I can't do this anymore. What about all the people that couldn't compete with what you were doing before? And
Right.
they laced him up and showed up. So it is what it is. I wish this DeBoer guy nothing but success, except for when he plays my Irish or my Wildcats, if he ever does play them. But we'll see. I think it's good for football that Nick Saban retired. I think it's good for football that Michigan won the championship and Nick Saban didn't make it. It's good for football there was no SEC teams in the championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, SEC won't agree with it, but we were being championship dominated by the SEC. And I think it's a bright spot to realize that other schools can put teams together and come out and do it, even if it is Michigan.
Fair. Here's my thing with Nick Saban. Again, because I really disliked him while he was coaching. I disliked the monopoly that he was able to establish in college football and the chokehold that he had on all of college football throughout his tenure. But it's one of those things that it is, I think, necessary to give someone their flowers. The fact that he was able to accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
The state of the union when he got to Alabama, the struggles that he was facing, the fact that he was able to go from LSU, where he turned them around, right? Let me take a step back. Going from Michigan State, turning them around. LSU, turning them around. Then going to Miami, realizing quickly that this ain't for me. This is why I give Pete Carroll his credit. This ain't for me, this whole NFL thing and free agency and not having ownership of who you get, the access to the players. Getting to Alabama and the state of the union when he got there. And the state of the union as he leaves. Bro, despite my haterisms, despite my personal feelings about how he has dominated the field, including Notre Dame, and ruined our chances of winning back in 2012, despite my skepticism about how he was able to achieve those recruiting classes, I walked away with, damn, bro. That's a cold-blooded coach, man.
He is.
Nick Saban was. There's no way that you thought watching Joe, what is his name, Melrose, the quarterback for the Crimson Tide this year. Early in the year, there's no way that you would have put money on the bet that said Nick Saban's going to figure it out. Alabama's going to make it to the championship. The only, not based on what you saw. It did pass the eye test. The only way that you might have done it is because Nick Saban is giving you this confidence,
right,
in his success that has year after year after year defied logic, and he's figured it out. Other than that, that's the only way we're going to bet on. And yet, he found himself not only in the Final Four, whether he deserved to be there or not, that debate's for another day. We've had it, and so we can all agree to disagree whether or not they should have been there. But well within the grasp of winning, he took the Michigan team that ultimately dominated Washington, the Michigan team that dominated ultimately Ohio State and faces that game, the Michigan team that everyone has said was supposed to win the championship this year based on their roster. He took them to the 11th and a half hour in overtime, and but for a series of bad snaps, and I know we like, yeah, well, I mean, if it was the fifth, we all beat Trump. But if we don't have a series of bad snaps, Alabama, including the last offensive snap of the game, in overtime, Alabama probably wins. And I just don't think any other coach in college football with that roster, with that quarterback, with those limitations that they showed throughout the year, could have even put them in position to win. Nick Saban, salute to you, my brother. I do think that we will probably see him again. I don't know where, whether it be on TV. I don't think he'll go to the NFL. He got way too much money, way too much cachet to go start over and press reset. But I do want to say, as the not only a member, but the president of the Hater Club, that is Nick Saban Hater Club, salute to you, man. Because that dude did a phenomenal job. To me, he's the most impressive of the three. I leave with Pete Carroll, and only because there's only three people that have done it. Pete Carroll, Pete Carroll, Jimmy Johnson, and Barry Switzer are the only 3 people on the planet that have done what he has done. And even our audience members who have offered the Mount Rushmore, Jimmy Johnson is one of the most prevalent names in that Mount Rushmore offering. Pete Carroll did what he was able to do as well. Now, had more championships, but Pete Carroll did it too. Shout out to Pete Carroll.
Who did you say were the 3 that did it?
Barry Switzer, Jimmy Johnson, and Pete Carroll. Yeah. So, a good stat line. Let's deal with the other half of that semifinal game. The other half of that game was Jim Harbaugh.
Okay.
Jim Harbaugh has been rumored to be the most attractive candidate for a lot of NFL teams. We know that he is in a long line of coaching when it comes to his familial status. The dad was classic. I think he won a D2 championship, but the dad was classic. We know John Harbaugh has, in terms of AFC, he's got the favorite coming out of the AFC. Jim Harbaugh, I think, did a wonderful job. Again, I'm putting hater hat aside. Can't stand Michigan, but I thought he did a wonderful job in figuring out how to win that game. J.J. McCartney, however you say his name. McCarthy played well enough to win the game. Defense wins championships. Defense won that game. Jim Harbaugh is in a unique spot. He's 3-0 right now.
Yeah, I'll do my man like that.
Which one? JJ? You thought he won the game?
I mean, offensive will. 4 rushing touchdowns. I mean, he didn't pass the ball that many, but whatever. They did good. They won the championship. I'm already going through a weird sort of mental thing trying to get over rooting for Michigan. But I had no choice, man. Knowing the kids, I had to root for them, but it's tough.
Is he from that area, from the Chicago area?
Yeah, so he's from this area. He's probably 20 minutes from our house or whatever. Shout out to JJ. Tyler Morris, another kid, number 8. He scored a touchdown against Bama. He played for me when he was a little kid, and my son was the same age. That was cool. The FCS National Championship and Heisman winner for FCS from the same area. They played on the same 7-on-7 team. So we're pretty proud over here. We're pretty proud.
Who says they ain't got no talent in Chi-Town?
Not I. But a lot of people on their mouth.
There's rumors and talk about y'all talent, man. Okay, that's, all right. So you find yourself rooting for him. I don't know. Does Jim Harbaugh, because we're talking about these coaching changes, and the episode is going by the title of Changing Tides. You won a national championship. I think he's 3-0 in the last 3 bouts with Ohio State after 0-6.
Yep. They made him take a pay cut, and then the man come back and give him 3 Big Ten championships right in a row and 3 playoff appearances in a row. That's amazing.
Right. So if you're Jim Harbaugh in this situation, you are the darling of the ball when it comes to college football. You did the unthinkable, and that was take the national championship right out of the SEC. And you did it by beating the Goliath. You went in there as David as a coach, and you beat Goliath. Is this the time for him to leave? You're supposed to say what they say, buy low, sell high. Is it time to sell on the Michigan job and go get paid in the NFL? You're his agent. He calls you and says, the Raiders are calling me. The other franchises are calling me. They're saying that they're willing to pay me X amount. They're going to pay me top dollar. Do you think this is the time to leave? If you're Jim Harbaugh, if you're his representation, what is your advice?
I mean, first of all, I think Harbaugh's been wanting to leave for 2 or 3 years. He keeps openly interviewing for jobs. One could say he was doing it for contract leverage with his own team, but he openly won that Minnesota job 2 years ago. And then last year, I can't remember what job it was that he almost got, he didn't get. I can't imagine the passes he's getting from the Michigan community where they don't even talk about it. But I would say that it depends what you're looking for. The college gig is a tough gig with all the recruiting and everything that goes on. Harbaugh is one that's not doing it with NIL, right? Somehow he's doing it without it. Those NIL deals are very sparse up north. So he's doing it without a huge collective that's just paying people. So you got to take your hat off to him in the championship. Despite all the cheating that he did, he came and won 3 big games when you know he couldn't possibly have the signs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he's 4 big games. Well, Iowa's nothing, but I would say he's got to go if that's what he wants to do. If he wants to be a college coach the rest of his life, that's one thing. I doubt that's the case. If he wants to get back in the NFL and see what he can go do, now is the time to do it. I think he's gonna lose a lot of talent this year. You know, it'll be interesting. They're gonna lose the running back. I don't know if they're gonna lose JJ or not. I would assume that there's better than 50% chance. But then again, if he leaves, that makes it even more of a good chance people leave. So it's interesting. You know, keep your TVs on ESPN.
I mean, at this point, every year you're flipping a coin in terms of whether or not there's going to be a mass exodus.
I know.
Because of the transfer portal, because of the NIL deals being thrown at players, because of the leverage that players have, because of this mysterious notion that if you're a 5-star player and you go to a Power 5 school like Michigan in the Big Ten and you don't start your freshman year, somehow, some way, you're a failure. There's this mysterious notion out here that is becoming normalized that if you don't play your freshman year, you have failed. And
here's the thing,
to the point where the Texas quarterback is coming back, and everyone's questioning whether or not Manning, Archie, what's the young one name? Not Archie, I call him Archie Manning, whatever his name is. The young Manning is or should be thinking about leaving. So
it's a tough call.
That's why I just don't know if you know. Now, on the other hand, I also just said there have been a total of 3, 1, 2, 3 coaches that have been able to win at both levels. And as Scott Bibb points out, even the Barry Switzer thing has an asterisk next to it because he says that was Jimmy's team. Right?
Fair. So
I don't know if it makes sense to go there either. If I'm his agent, I'm telling him, man, stay put. Stay put, because just how you get them is how you can get them back, and you can sort of play musical chairs and replace good players with good players, because the transfer portal is a two-way street. You can play this NIL game better than anybody because Michigan has probably the largest alum base from a quantitative standpoint, pure numbers, but also has one of the most powerful fan bases and alumni bases from a qualitative standpoint, because Michigan grads, whether or not I hate on them or not, tend to go do very successful things in life. This the game that you are winning, keep playing this game. Don't go from you're in a particular place that if you mastered a particular game, if you got this Texas Hold'em thing down, don't all of a sudden get greedy and go over to blackjack where you don't really know the rules. And that's what I'm telling Jim Harbaugh if I'm his agent.
I mean, but Jim Harbaugh got to the Super Bowl.
Don't play blackjack, homeboy, because they get rid of coaches quick. They don't care what you did in college. Ask Doug Peterson. 1 year removed from him winning the Super Bowl, we got to get up out. Ask the current Sirianni from Philly. He on the hot seat now. Ask Doug Peterson again, because there's been rumors and some really strong takes about why Bill Belichick should be interested in the Jaguars job. They change coaches like they change draws. I'm telling him, stay put, master this college thing. You got it.
It depends what's the motivation. He's a quirky guy. What is your motivation? These guys they got rich, they got money beyond money. When he's done with the money, if he wants to be an analyst, as weird as he is, he could do that. He's not worried about that. He made it to a Super Bowl with the 49ers, lost to his brother. He may feel like he wants to be the fourth guy that wins at both levels. So now that he's gotten to the promised land in Michigan, trying to stay there is really hard. You've done what you got to go do. The expectations are going to be pretty high. The demands on you as a college coach are way higher than demands as an NFL coach from a timing standpoint, a travel standpoint. Maybe not as much as a head coach because you're not doing the same travel as your assistants, but it's pretty much, it's a tough gig, and you got to be responsible for so many different things. And unlike Nick Saban, where Nick Saban is crying foul about NIL, Harbaugh is saying you should pay these kids. We should be giving the money to these kids. He's on the other side of it. He's trying to get things to be a little bit more normalized. Now, maybe that's to take some of the work off his shoulders, because if the school starts paying people, then you get yourself into a situation where, there is maybe a salary cap, a pay structure, pay scale, and it takes a little bit more of the creativity off of his hands. But I just think he's going to go because he's wanted to go. He's wanted to leave. And I think now is the time to do it. Anytime could have been fair. A couple people passed him up, and I don't think they're going to pass him up anymore. I see him. I'm looking at the Raiders Stadium right now, out the window, and I see the shadow of Jim Harbaugh looming over.
You see it happen. I hope that they actually give Antonio Pierce the job, but it's probably unlikely. So you might be right. Kalen DeBoers from Washington on the other end of the championship game. Right? So now we've connected. We saw the semifinals where Nick Saban lost to Jim Harbaugh. Then we had the championship game. We had Kalen DeBoers lose to Jim Harbaugh. Now Kalen DeBoers is getting the Alabama job. He will succeed. Reports, I don't think the ink is dry yet. Reports are that he is the next in line to succeed Nick Saban. Good move to move from I'll almost say the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. So the move from the Huskies to the Crimson Tide. Good move if you're his agent, because it's changing tides. Now you got him going from, he was an NAIA championship coach at Sioux Falls. Then he got 2 good years, one being COVID year, pandemic year at Fresno State. And now he's got 2 years where he did turn it around, Washington in his first year. And now he's on 14-1, lost in the championship with some questionable decisions, I think, in the semifinal, because he almost gave that game away. He literally almost handed that game to Texas. But do you think he's ready to take the job? Because Washington came back and was going to offer him a lot more money.
I doubled his bread. I think it's good that Alabama moved fast and they got a guy that's hot. I don't really know much about him. I never looked at Washington. We never really had an opportunity during the recruiting process myself to really look at them. But I think he's a hot coach. I think he just went to the championship game, and now he's at Bama. They moved really quick, so hopefully he won't lose a lot of players. They're going to lose some commits. There's going to be some transfer stuff. They got 30 days now to get into the portal. So I think that'll be tough. But I think it was a pretty good move for Bama. I mean, I actually was thinking that they were going to get like a Urban Meyer or something like that, to get him to come out of retirement and go do it, just do a big name. But they got, one of the biggest names in coaching. You lost the championship game. You're not going to get Harbaugh. I mean, I don't know. I thought it was a good move. And I think he should be successful. I don't know a ton about him, but I think he should be successful. Their passing game is great. That's what Alabama's kind of known for, the passing game, getting receivers. I mean, running game too, but they get receivers in the NFL left and right. I think he's going to get a lot of receivers in the NFL draft this year at Washington. And, they got to secure a quarterback.
That could be the second or third receiver off the board at number 1 for Washington. So absolutely. And let's see if it leads. I think here's the thing: when you're going to double someone's bread, and I said the same thing about Schiano when he first left. Now, he left for the NFL, so it's different, but I'm going to make the comparison. Greg Schiano had the state of New Jersey in the palm of his hands. He had his own everything. right? They basically were going to build a statue for this man because he was the first success, or he was the producer of the first real legitimate sustained success when it came to college football at Rutgers, the state university. And he left. And I said, man, be careful what you ask for. Now, he went to the NFL, different animal, but similar in the sense that what Kalen DeBoer is about to get into with the expectation, with that conference, with trying to, I won't say replace, that's too strong a word, but at least help people deal with the agita and the stress of losing a Nick Saban. He's trying to calm the tide. That's a lot of pressure. When the state of Washington is basically about to build a statue around you because you have gotten them back to early 90s success. Kaufman. I mean, you got to go back to so many greats of the 90s, right? I try to think back to when Washington was really that powerful as a team.
I mean, they shared a championship. Michigan's last championship before this one was a share when they had
that's 97.
Yeah, that's back
90,
when Charles
90,
Woodson was
yes.
Yeah, they shared a championship. I would say, it depends what kind of personality you are, and it's hard because, for me, I'm coaching college over NFL because, I think you could stay longer. Your longevity is a lot longer. If it's me.
All right, so within college. Caleb DeBoer, he stays in college, but he's going from with the expectations. You've already exceeded them. You're going to get more recruits from Washington. The amount that you were able to use, the NIL collective is going to probably quadruple because you appeared in the national championship. You have now built the foundation of success. You've created a culture where kids are coming from not only West Coast high schools, but now you're going to be able to recruit East Coast high schools. You go from that where the expectations are such that every year that you win 10 games, you've exceeded expectations in terms of what the culture was before you got there. You go from that to getting in the hottest seat in all of college football by far because you are replacing a legend.
By far.
I don't
know what? That's how some of these guys are cut. Like they want the smoke. I want the challenge. I don't want to smoke that much. I'm the kind of guy that chips. If I'm playing a poker tournament at the end, I'll chop the pot, right? I want to do really well.
You're the one that makes the agreement in the fantasy league in the championship. Like,
yes,
look, no matter who, we just split it.
Let's split it. Let's split this because I just want to. I want to maximize my opportunity to do something. So that's why they didn't hire me. That's why they didn't hire me to do the job. Some guys are cut like that. They want the biggest challenge. They want the smoke. They want to go to the highest level challenge and do it. I've just seen too many great people fail to push yourself out there, knowing that there's so many intangibles that are out there. He's going to be in Alabama. He's going to have a much bigger NIL budget than he has at Washington.
A lot more competition too. A lot more competition.
A lot more competition
versus other big NIL budgets.
All he's got to do is do what look at what he was able to accomplish in Washington. He accomplished what Nick Saban couldn't accomplish this year, right? In Washington.
Fair.
He had great quarterback he did this year. He has to be thinking, you give me the horses that they have over there, the ones that are going to stay. You give me a chance, I'll be back here again next year, and now I'll be able to recruit the same way Nick Saban is recruiting. That's what he has to believe in himself because he almost did it with a team of I don't want to say nobodies, but we didn't know who Washington was before. They're in Seattle. Nobody's thinking about them. Now you go to Bama.
Right.
If there is an America's team, it's Bama right now. I mean, people bandwagon that and they jump on it. If he can keep this momentum going, they brought him in here with the roster he has. He's got to be thinking that he likes the roster of Bama better than the roster he had in Washington and almost won the national championship with Washington. So I don't know. I think it's a good move for him if that's where he's at in his career. How is he? 49? How old is he?
40. I think 49 years old, somewhere in there.
49 years old. So he's starting to get to the point where he's getting a little later in his career and he's trying to see what he can go do. I don't know. Hats off to him. Somebody had to do it.
We shall see, man. I think when you think of this title and changing tides, the tide is significantly different, right? Pun intended, when you become the coach of the Crimson Tide versus the Washington Huskies.
Absolutely.
And so not a lot of people can swim against that tide. It's the momentum of all the things you got to deal with. You're not just like, you're competing against Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. You go down the list of people that have this, have amassed this amazing coffer of NIL money that they're distributing and attracting the best talent. And the ability to get from Alabama to the next SEC schools in a short drive and see what they have to offer makes the barriers of entry very low when it comes to, I'm going to enter the transfer portal. And that's what scares me for him, is that you're in a whole new world. But like you said, it's a personality driven. We'll see how he does. Let's end on this, man, because I'll give you final word if you had anything else to add, and then we'll go NBA.
No, I'm good. Let's go
NBA before we get out of here, man, because the NBA All-Star voting, the results are in, and the two leading vote getters from the West and the East are LeBron James and the Greek Freak. And so I want to use the All-Star voting to get us into a different conversation. And that conversation is simply this. The Lakers, start with LeBron James in the West. The Lakers have given their vote of confidence for Darwin Ham. But if you look at the Lakers over the last 20 or so games and look at their record, and you see the struggles that are indicative of why the record is what it is, I know that LeBron struggled one game, and they were saying Father Time finally caught up. But to be honest, statistically, he's still putting up astronomical numbers for a 39-year-old man. I got to ask, though, as a LeBron disciple that you are, wherever he's at, that's the NBA hat that you have.
Yeah.
Are we seeing the beginning of the end? Let's go with the Lakers first, more as a team. Give me what you're seeing, where it goes from here, because now we are at this point in the AD experience or experiment where LeBron and AD being the leaders of that team, we thought that with the role players that they brought in, I got to be honest, when they brought in Cam Reddish, they brought in these pieces that I thought, oh, man, this is it. We ain't seeing, and yeah, it is pre-All-Star game weekend, but we're not seeing, they're the second best team in LA right now, by far. And the Clippers started off struggling, but they're hot. Give me what you see, state of affairs, when it comes to the Lakers and why they doubled down on Darwin Ham. They gave him a vote of confidence. Now they added these infamous words for now. So that could change in 30 minutes from now. But what do you see with these Lakers, man?
I see a long season. I think, last year, we thought the Lakers were done, and then, they made a really nice run, and then they went in the playoffs and they did what they had to go do in the playing games, and they ended up losing, but they had a really nice little run. The NBA season is just so long that it's too early to panic. 10, 15 games after the All-Star break, that's when you start getting a little panicky if the numbers aren't there. They just got to make the playing game. They got to make the playing game and see what's going to go on. You got to keep people healthy, and then you got to get hot in the hot streak. So they have the pieces together to make noise. They're just not doing that. I really just don't understand why not. But the Lakers used to do this back when they had Kobe. They would shit off the whole season, and then all of a sudden, at the end, they would get serious and make a run to either win the championship or get in the picture. I don't know. I just think it's the Laker way right now. It's too early to panic. I mean, when they had to dial it up, they won that midseason. Here we go. Every time we start talking about basketball and championships and trophies, some Laker fan, some LeBron fan is going to bring up a damn AAU tournament. That was an AAU tournament. So you baby who you wait. You were waiting for me to bring that up. You didn't want to.
I didn't want you to bring it up. I was hoping you did bring it up. I didn't bring it up. You brought it up.
What I'm saying is there was a chance everybody wanted to win that championship, and when there's a chance to dial it up, the Lakers look good. They have the ability to win. They just aren't winning right now. But I'm saying in a lot of ways it doesn't matter. As long as you get in the playoffs, it doesn't really matter.
And
but
you got 2 extra slots. Yeah. With the play-in, you got 2 extra opportunities to make it in. And they showed last year, even as a play-in team, you can go on a run. And you said they lost last year. I want to make sure we get the facts right. Not only did they lost, they got swept. And in this episode of Changing Tides, and I don't want to make this a GOAT comparison, but never in a million years did you think a LeBron-led team would get swept. They got swept. And now
not the first time.
But
that's all right.
I'm not going to go to the early Cleveland days. Like, we're talking about a seasoned LeBron.
Get it all out.
Seasoned LeBron
get it all out.
Get swept.
All right. Get it all out. You feel good?
I do. Changing tides.
I'm glad you feel better. At the end of the day, my friend, it's a long season. If they were, look at the years that the Golden State has won the championship, and the first half of the season, you're thinking this team is trash. They need to blow the whole team up, and then they win the whole chip. So I don't know. You can't panic. It's 82 games, too long.
On the other end of it, Giannis,
Lakers
the Greek Freak. Giannis, they were dominating the Celtics last night. They beat them by like 35 at halftime. They ended up winning by 30. On the same night that the Lakers lost by essentially 20 points to the Suns, the Greek Freak won by 30 points against the Celtics. And it looks like they are 2 very different points. The Greek Freak and the Bucks have struggled at times, but they looked good last night. And so when you look at the All-Star voting, and we'll end it here, and you see that still in his 58th year in the NBA, LeBron is leading the All-Star votes at this point, the second level of All-Star votes.
Who's the best?
Just as quickly as I'm to say the tides are changing, this 39-year-old man who keeps defying gravity and defying ageism as we know it, because you're not supposed to be able to do it. We shall see. But I got to be honest, if I was in Vegas, I'm betting on a change in tide, man. The West seems out of the reach for the Lakers. They're the second best team in LA. All of a sudden, that combination that they have with the Clippers looks magical. Kawhi Leonard is drunk from the fountain of youth or something. He's playing out of his mind.
Until he gets hurt.
They just re-signed him, so he very well. I don't want to knock on wood. I don't want anybody to get hurt, but he just got paid again, and they look like the safest bet. Pun intended, as you're in Vegas. They look like the safest bet in LA. Who would have thought? Right. Who would have thought?
As long as we're talking about safe bets and getting paid, we got to give a hat off to Spoelstra and what he pulled off, right? Yeah. His wife has to be so mad. His ex-wife. Not only did she not get the bread, but everybody knows she didn't get the bread. Everybody knows she got played. And obviously, there must be nothing they could do about it because they're letting it out in public. But hats off to Spoelstra.
Yeah. Shout out, man.
What you shooting in the gym.
She wasn't with me shooting. For those who don't know, a little quick background, Eric Spoelstra and his wife were going through troubles, and the Miami Heat waited until the ink was dry and the divorce was finalized before they paid him, because that way, whatever half was, it was significantly smaller than what it was once they signed. Well, hey, man, Mars and Venus, man, score one for the guys on this one, man. Shout out to Eric Spoelstra. We did a show last week called, what was it, The Beginning? I can't think of the name of the title, but I should know. It was basically talking about new beginnings, the beginning of a new chapter. We talked about the beginning of the end. That was the name of it. And we talked about how as the year was ending and we had New Year's resolutions going into 2024, and now we're into 2024, and we were able to connect how the end of something You think of it as when you go through a graduation, right? They don't call it graduation; they call it, what they call it?
Promotion. No, moving on. What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, they say, your graduation is basically the beginning, right? The words that they're using are talking about the beginning, and so we talked about that from this show, and I wanted to, in this moment, recognize and take a moment of silence for one of our fallen soldiers who ended this chapter, earthly chapter of his life, and hopefully begin an amazing next chapter when it comes to my beliefs. I believe in heaven and the afterlife. And so the Great Wall, Leon Wallace, departed us at the end of last year. He was having some health issues. I know you were really close to him. He wore number 88. He's a reason why I wore number 88. Not only was he a phenomenal football player as a tight end at Notre Dame, hailed from Texas, went on to play in the NFL, but he was also just a significant human being. He's an amazing human being. So, how dare we not? I know we are finishing up this episode, but I wanted to take a very brief moment of silence on behalf of the Ball Hog Sports Talk, on behalf of myself, on behalf of Big Flow Show. I don't know if you wanted to add to it, on behalf of all the teammates that have played with him, on behalf of all the tears that have been shed amongst the Notre Dame Brotherhood, because our boy, Great Wall, Leon Wallace, has departed this chapter, the earthly chapter, and moved on, hopefully, to an amazing space in heaven. I don't know if you wanted to say anything before we take the moment of silence, but I did want to acknowledge Leon Wallace.
Yeah, I would. Again, Leon was part of the crew, one of the brothers. He's one of the guys that if you saw me, you saw Leon a lot of times in school. Been to each other's homes. It's one of those things where you're sad. He was suffering towards the end. He definitely wasn't. He definitely wasn't the Leon that you would have known in college, as far as the way he looked and the way he had to live his life and do stuff. But I say he stayed positive. He was right with God. He was at peace. He came back and mended old relationships that he thought he'd kind of fractured through the years. So I'm happy for Leon to be able to have that opportunity to come forward and do that and again die at peace. On the other side of that, this is the third teammate in as many years that died from death that with lifestyle changes potentially could have been prevented. We lost LaRon Moore to a brain aneurysm 2 years ago. Last year, the year before last, I guess you say, we lost Herb Gibson to some complications due to, diabetes and different things of that nature. And now Leon. And, I just turned 50, got 51 coming around the corner. All these guys didn't make it to 50. And these are all D1 top level athlete thoroughbreds that are out there in their day. It's just a wake up call to a lot of us, myself included. Try to take care of yourself and make sure you don't ignore these health issues because, we are not immortal. There was a time where we were doing things that didn't seem human, but all that stuff can catch up to you. So, I'm sad. I'm sad, and it's just something that's kind of tough to swallow and deal with. But I'm glad we remembered to do it this week because we didn't get a chance to fit it in last week.
And in this episode of Changing Tides, to your point, the tides are changing. We're getting into a different season of our lives. So we beg you to please, please, please keep your health at the top of your list of priorities. Go to the doctor early and often. Listen to your body and understand that the evolution of the body, we are all built to break down. We have our check engine lights on at this part in our lives. So make sure we pay attention to that. But with no further ado, man, let's take a brief moment of silence for our dog, Leon Wallace, the Great Wall, number 88. Miss you, 88, man. Hopefully you're looking down on us, man. You're proud of what we're doing. Salute you, brother. Love you. Been a great week, great show. Wanted to make sure we got that in. Figured that was the timing to do it at the very end, man. You're in Vegas. Make sure that you raise a glass to my man Leon, man. Cheers to Leon. And with that, man, we're gonna get out of here for this week. I know we went later in the evening. We went nighttime. We wanted to see what everybody's Friday nights were looking like. We appreciate those who did chime in, who did contribute. And like we ask you every week, we ask every week, so we're gonna ask again. Please like, please comment, please tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both our YouTube channel and our podcast. This has been the Changing Tides episode of the Ball Hog Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. It's where businessmen get together to discuss sports in an entertaining fashion. We had the Big Flow Show in the building, coming live from Vegas. He like Usher, baby. He bringing you some entertainment. He live from Vegas. Nah, you on the residency, though. You got to go home soon, man. They're going to get you out of there. I am your boy, B. Brown ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mountain South, a.k.a. Mr. Excessive Celebration, a.k.a. Breezy. This has been our show. It's the Ball Hog Sports Talk. We do it rough, rugged, and raw. We'll see you next week. Enjoy your weekend. This has been the Changing Tides episode. We is out. Hey.